Hey everyone! Today we're doing more than just writing queries. We are going to pop the hood on MySQL to really understand it. We're talking about moving massive amounts of data, tuning the engine for insane performance, and even getting a peek at how it thinks. Let's jump right in. So let's start with a classic scenario. You get handed this giant CSV file, a million rows of data that needed to be in the database yesterday. The clock is ticking. You know, and I know, that trying to run a standard insert statement for every single row, that could take all day. So what do the pros do? How do you handle this? And that brings us right to our first big challenge, getting really good at moving data in and out at high speed. Honestly, whether you're a developer or a data analyst, this is probably one of the most practical skills you're going to use all the time.
So why are those individual inserts so slow? Well, the problem is that every single insert is its own little transaction with its own overhead. When you do that a million times, you're creating a million separate operations. It's kind of like trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon. Yeah, it's accurate, but it is painfully slow.
So, allow me to introduce your new favorite command, load data in file. This thing is a beast. It's MySQL's purpose-built tool for exactly this situation. It skips all that one-by-one overhead and just streams the data directly from the file into your table. This isn't the teaspoon anymore. This is the fire hose.
Okay, but here's the detail you absolutely have to get right. Where is the file you're loading? If it's already on the database server itself, you just use InFile. But if the file is on your own laptop, you have to use local InFile. And just a heads up, for security reasons, using local won't work out of the box. You'll need to flip a switch in your settings called local_infile to enable it. And listen, you can't just point MySQL at a file and hope it figures it out. You got to be specific. You have to tell it exactly how that file is built. Are the columns separated by commas? Are text fields wrapped up in double quotes? Oh, and is there a header row at the top that we need to skip? Getting these little details right is absolutely the key to making this whole thing work. So we've totally mastered getting data in, but what about when you need to get it out? For a report or a backup or something else. Well, let's flip to the other side of the coin. The command is super similar, SELECT INTO OUTFILE. It's the perfect partner for high-speed exports. Now, the first time you try this, you're probably going to hit a permissions error. Don't worry, this is actually a good thing. It's a security feature called Secure File Priv. It basically tells MySQL, hey, you are only allowed to write files in this one specific secure folder. It's there to stop the database from accidentally overwriting important system files, so you just need to make sure your output file goes right there. One little quirk with INTO OUTFILE is that it just dumps the raw data, no column headers. But check out this awesome workaround. You can use union all to basically build your own header row as the first line of the query and then stitch it together with the actual data from your table. It's a super clever trick that gets you a perfect CSV every single time.
All right, so we've learned how to use the database like a pro to move data around. Now let's go a level deeper. It's time to learn how to control the database. We're popping the hood to talk about configuration and performance tuning.
If you're on a Windows system, the entire brain of your MySQL server lives inside a single text file, my.ini. Think of this as the main control panel. It controls everything from how much memory it uses to which network port it listens on.
Now, this file is incredibly powerful, which also means it's incredibly sensitive. I'm not kidding. A single typo, one misplaced character in this file, and your whole MySQL server might refuse to start. So, rule number 1, and it's non-negotiable, always make a backup copy before you even think about editing it.
If you're only going to learn about one setting, make it this one. The InnoDB buffer pool is basically the database's short-term memory. The more RAM you give it, the more of your frequently used data it can keep right in that super fast memory instead of having to go fetch it from the much slower disk. Seriously, this is often the single biggest performance boost you can get. And here is a tip that trips up everybody, even seasoned pros. You can sit there and edit that my.ini file all you want, but none of your changes will do anything until you do one crucial thing. You have to restart the MySQL service. The server only reads that configuration file when it first boots up, so a restart is the only way to make your new settings stick. Okay, we've moved data, we've tuned the engine. For our last part, let's peel back that final layer to really understand the why. Why does it all work this way? Let's take a look at how MySQL actually thinks.
You know, it's really helpful to think of MySQL as having three main layers. Up top, you've got the client layer. That's the front door that handles connections and checks if you have permission to be there. In the middle is the server layer. That's the real brain of the whole operation. And at the bottom is the storage engine layer, the part that actually writes and reads data on the physical disk.
And inside that middle server layer lives this magical component called the query optimizer. The best way to think about it is like a GPS for your data. You tell it your destination, the data you want, and it calculates the fastest, most efficient route to get there, figuring out which indexes to use and the best way to join tables. It's pretty amazing.
Ultimately, that route calculated by the optimizer leads down to the storage engine. And this is the part that does the heavy lifting. The default engine, InnoDB, is your all-around workhorse. It's great for pretty much everything and keeps your data safe. But for really specific jobs, like massive read-only data warehouses, you might see a different engine, like MyISAM, pop up.
And just like that, we've gone on a pretty amazing journey. We started as someone who just uses a database, and now we're looking at it like an administrator who really gets how it works. So let's just step back and look at what we've unlocked together. We started with a super practical skill, moving huge amounts of data fast. Then, we dug deeper and learned how to actually tune the engine using its config file. And finally, we understood the why behind it all by exploring the core architecture and seeing how a query makes its journey from start to finish.
Look, this knowledge completely changes the game. You're not just someone writing queries anymore. You're someone who can design, build, and maintain systems that are fast, reliable, and can scale. You've seen how the engine really works. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with it?